Hello, and welcome to the Stitched by podcast, the podcast that focuses on the crafters, creators, and pattern makers within the sewing, knitting, and crochet communities. In each episode, you will hear from someone you know and love, or someone new. I'm your host, Ari at Stitched by Ari, and today's guest is Moa at Honse Design. Moa P. Blomqvist, I hope I'm saying that correctly, is the fiber artist behind Honse. With her crochet hook as a weapon and her heart on full display, she's taken on the mission to revolutionize the public opinion on crochet. With 25 years of crochet behind her, immense love of color, and a healthy dose of nostalgia, she crochets in ways you've never seen before. She lives and works in the small coastal town of Varberg in Sweden, where she has run Honse as a design since 2020 and a yarn store by the same name since 2021. Moa, welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, of course. Did I say your last name correctly?
Yeah, as close as you can get.
Okay. How would you pronounce it in your native tongue of
Yeah.
Swedish?
Blomqvist.
Blomqvist. Wow,
Yes, it
that's
means
awesome.
it means flower branch, which is kind of cool. So
Oh,
yeah.
that is so cool. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm so excited to have you here, and I'm really excited to talk about who you are as a crocheter and also just who you are as a person. So you mentioned in your bio that I just shared that you have 25 years of crochet experience. And when I read that, I was just like, okay, that's like almost as old as I am. I immediately wanted to know more. Can you talk about what got you into crochet and how that led you to opening a business and a yarn store?
Of course, it's been like there was a long time of just being a crocheter and not owning a
Mhm.
business. But I grew up, I don't know what it's called in English, but in Swedish we call it sort of a generational home. So I lived with my mom and my stepdad on the top floor, and on the bottom floor was my grandma and my grandpa.
Mhm.
There were like two generations on that side of the family, or three, including me. And every day after school, I would go hang out with my grandma and my grandpa. And my grandma was so creative. She was like a
Mhm.
force of nature when it came to creativity. She did it all. So she would let me sort of explore and try different ways of being crafty, basically.
Wow.
Um,
Mhm.
and when she taught me how to crochet, this was like at the year Y2K, so I'm that old. I was 8 when I started, and I really felt like I sort of found a home in crochet. It
Mhm.
sounds super pretentious when I say it that way, but that is the thing that sort of stuck out of all the things she allowed me to try.
Mhm.
And I crocheted on and off for, I would say, 7 years, and then just on after that. So,
Wow.
um,
Wow.
yeah, so it is like it, I think it's hard to say because sometimes people say, "Oh, it must be so fun to work with your hobby," and I'm like, "Crochet is
Right.
not my hobby. Crochet is my passion,
Mm.
and it has been ever since I was 15, like full on my passion, and it holds so much meaning to me.
Mm.
And like many others, I had way more time during the pandemic. I
Mhm.
was on, I don't know if this was a thing outside of Sweden, but in Sweden you got furloughed from work. So you still
Yeah.
got to keep your pay, but you couldn't be at work.
Mhm.
So I started crocheting more because I had more time. And I'd been making sweaters at that point for like 5 or 6 years. I would say I
Mm.
started making my own clothes because it's hard when you look at me because, like, yes, she's a tall skinny girl, like how can she have a hard time finding clothes? But the thing is, I have quite possibly the longest arms in the west of Sweden. Like, my arms are so long, and every time I try to
Uh,
buy like a sweater in the store, the sleeves only go like to my lower arm.
mm.
So I started making my own sweaters. Um, and then I got like more time to do that. So I started doing it, and it was the first time, I think this was in late 2019 or
Okay.
early 2020, when I posted online about it for the first time.
Hmm.
So I posted it on Reddit and people were just like bombarding me to get a pattern. And I'm like, I have never written a pattern before in my life. And it took me, I want to say it took me about 8 months to
Hmm.
like get that pattern to where I wanted it to be. And then I released the pattern in August of 2020.
Wow.
And it took like my only goal was to sort of like earn the money back for the yarn that I
Right.
bought. Like my goal was to get enough, like I wanted to get enough money so I could buy more yarn, so I could make
Hmm.
another sweater, so I could release the pattern. Like I wanted to be like a self-sustaining economy for my crochet basically. But it
Right.
took like 3 months, I want to say, before I made more money selling patterns online than I did at
Hmm.
my day job. So it was really quick. Um, and then I opened oh no, sorry. Then I got like this idea, like I wanted to do it full time, obviously.
Right.
Not everyone wants to, but I wanted to. And
Right.
on my way to work one day, I saw that there was like this store space for rent.
Mm.
It's where we are now. I'm in my store. And that was in February of 2021. And I'm like, okay, I've always wanted to own a store. Not necessarily a yarn store. I just love working in stores. Like I'm a salesperson at heart. I just love
Okay.
working with customers. So when I wanted to go, or when I felt that it was the time to go full time with Honse, it was either like sit in a studio somewhere or open a store. And to me, that was a pretty simple choice because I'm way too much of an extrovert to sit in a studio. Like I would be so lonely and sad.
Hmm.
So I called a little number to the landlord who owns this space, and
Hmm.
I got to see the space, and it wasn't like it hadn't been renovated uh since the early 2000s, so they had to do some major renovations. But I
Hmm.
like for basic stuff, like there was no floor. So I had to
Oh
get
my
a
God.
floor. Yeah. I'm like, I was walking by one day when they were doing like redoing the store, and I'm like, we still don't have a floor, but there were traffic cones all over all over the floor. I'm like, okay, let's see where we're at. But I got the keys on April 30th of 2021, and then me and my
Hmm.
dad, we started like building the store,
Wow.
painting and like doing all the shelving and everything. And then I opened in June of 2021, like mid
Hmm.
pandemic. We had we had COVID restrictions, so you could
Right.
only have one person or one customer per 10 square meters. And
Right.
my store is 24 square meters, so I could
So
have
not a
like
lot of people.
no. So people were like standing in. There was a queue for me. It looks like it was the hottest club ever, but
Right.
that was just because like I can't let people in here, or I'm gonna have to pay a fine. But
That's
ever
so
since then,
funny.
yeah, ever since then, I've been doing this full time. I don't do
Wow.
anything else. So
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah.
So it sounds like crochet and like your crochet business, it all comes from like this really happy place, like with your grandmother teaching you and you deciding to start a business. And
Yeah.
that's so funny that like Reddit is kind of what like sent you in this direction.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Were
I
you
love
expecting
Reddit.
that at all? Yeah, me too.
Not really. Not
Okay.
really. Absolutely not. I did not expect it
Mm.
from posting a sweater on like an online forum. I am also of that age. Like we didn't have social media when I grew up. We had
Hmm.
forums. Like if you wanted to keep in touch with people, you were in super niche forums. So Reddit was like so easy for me to adapt to because it was like a way of connecting with people that I was used to. I had a much
Right.
harder time with like Instagram and Facebook. Um, but I was just like on there. I hadn't even been active in the crafts or crochet subreddits at all before that point.
Wow.
I just felt lonely during the
Mm.
pandemic. I'm like,
Totally, totally.
I need to show someone what I did because I can't go to
Right.
work and show my coworkers. Uh, so so yeah, it was I had no like that wasn't my intention at all. It just
Mm.
it, it sounds like I'm oversimplifying it by saying it sort of just happened, but it did sort of just happen.
Mm-hmm. As do a lot of things.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, speaking of social media, I remember that I actually started following you, I think in 2022,
Yeah.
because some people that I was following shared your jacket of words, the
Oh,
one that you call "If I Just Wasn't."
yeah.
Um, and when I first saw this jacket, I was like, okay, wow, this says a lot of really intense words here. And I was just surprised that one, in the crochet space, that someone was sharing something like this, and two, that it was like clad in color with all of these like intense words. And I was like, I'm I was just honestly, I was taken aback that like this was something that you were posting, and I was just super impressed, I guess, at your openness and willingness to be, yeah, I guess just open about your feelings. Um, so, can you talk a little bit about what inspired you to make that jacket and to be so open and transparent, and just like what that experience has been like for you?
Of course, it's always hard to know where to start because we can do the long version, which start at age 5, or we can do like, no, I'm just kidding. But like I have, uh, so I just said it sometimes feels like things sort of just happen, and at
Mm-hmm.
that point in 2022, a lot of things had just happened. You know, it's like the store was doing well. I very recently signed the book deal. I was doing interviews and public speaking. Like there was a lot of things going my way, and I started to
Mm-hmm.
grow on Instagram mainly, and also on TikTok. And I somehow felt that I was lying in a way, like not that I wasn't showing something that wasn't true about myself, because yes, all of those things, I did those things, like I accomplished
Right.
so much, but I have been, and this is gonna, like, you let me know if this is too rough of a topic or if it's like too heavy, but I have been severely mentally ill since I was 5. That is what I mean by we
Mm-hmm.
can do this like the long the long version
Right.
or the short version. Um, and I also come from a time where you don't really talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
In many ways, I think it's so much harder to be a teenager today. But
Mm-hmm.
one way it isn't harder is that we're much more open about mental health issues now than we were in the early 2000s or like mid to late 2000s. And I wanted people to have like this sort of more nuanced view of me, that they wanted to, and I
Mm-hmm.
also in some ways wanted to show that yes, I am mentally unwell. I don't like myself very much, and I can still run a successful business. Like those things are not mutually exclusive. Like because I thought for so long that I had to wait until I was like healed from everything that ever
Mm-hmm.
happened to me before I could start living my life or owning a
Right.
business. Um, and if I was to wait for that moment to happen, I would be in the retirement home. Like before that happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's so I felt like okay, and I am a pretty open person. And I have always had a very low barrier between like what I post on social media and who I am as a person. And that is not because I overshare or like I feel
Mm-hmm.
like everyone needs to know exactly everything about me all of the time. That is mainly because technically everyone who follows me on social media could come Monday through Saturday and meet me in person. because my store is
Right.
open and I am here. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
want there to be like a discrepancy between who I am online and who I am in person, because I don't
Right.
want people to think I am a certain way and then get disappointed when I'm not. So
Right.
I've always been pretty open and honest about my feelings, but this one was heavy, because there's a difference between being like open and vulnerable about the struggles of running a business and
Mm-hmm.
being open and vulnerable about the fact that you hate yourself. Like
Right.
it is much more raw in a sense, I would say. It
Right.
was tough. Um, and people, I had to do, or I got to do so many interviews about the coat or the
Wow.
project, yeah, both like nationally and international. And
Wow.
people would always say like, "Oh, that must have been so therapeutic for you," because they view, yeah, yeah, and I'm like, yeah, no, because people view. Sorry. No, because people view like they think I made this coat and then I was healed. Like I was a new
Mm-hmm.
person who let everything go.
Right.
And I always feel like I disappoint them when I tell them that's not the case. Like this,
Mm-hmm.
no, it was not very therapeutic. It was a job that needed to be done. And I hate myself just as much now as I did before I
Mm.
even like did the first chain on the project. Um,
Right.
because people have this view on crochet and crafts in general that it's supposed to serve like a higher purpose of being therapeutic,
Mm-hmm.
and for me I wouldn't say that it is. It is a way, for me it's a way of speaking about things that are hard, and this was just a very more in your face way of doing that than let's say
Right.
just like a regular sweater. And
Yeah.
then the other thing people always say, like, you should make one with positive words instead. And I'm like, you could do that if you'd like. I remember my dad calling when he saw it. Uh, and he's like, but there, you have so many good qualities. And he's like,
Mm.
you're very beautiful and you're so smart. And this is my favorite compliment I've ever received in my life, because he was trying to like come up with phrases I should crochet, and he's like,
Mm-hmm.
"You're very fast," and I'm like,
You're like, okay.
and I'm like, "Thank you, Dad. I am pretty fast." No, but the thing is, and I always have to like sort of shift that question back to the person asking it, because would it have had the same impact if I told everyone the
Mm.
good parts of myself? Because that is the thing too. The sort of internet space needs something that grabs
Mm-hmm.
your attention, and people unfortunately thrive off the carnage in a way.
Yeah, they
It's the
do.
same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you want to talk about that later, but I had like the dress that I cut up, um,
Mm-hmm.
and people, they want to question that because it gives them something to be angry about. And like this
Yes.
coat,
Mm-hmm.
it gives them something to be angry about. And I'm not saying I do it to provoke. I'm not doing it to provoke a certain type of response, but I do it to provoke the thoughts and feelings of people, because I think it's important, and it's easier to do for large scale, more artsy projects like that than it is like just me dropping a sweater pattern.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
So
100%.
yeah, so I think it's for me it was a very important project, and it opened a lot of doors to
Mm-hmm.
people started seeing me and my work, and an extension also crochet, as a valid form of art.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to sort of, because Sweden is small, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
Sweden is small, and the craft community is in Sweden is even smaller, and the crochet community within that is tiny.
Mm-hmm.
And crochet has always been seen like the poor man's version of knitting, or like a second
Right.
class craft to knitting.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that that was my first sort of um, me trying to wedge myself into the art scene by force, because
Yeah.
people wouldn't give crochet the time of day, basically.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. I just want to clarify for those that are listening. Mua has the jacket. It's pinned on the top of her Instagram page if you want to check it out. and it just has, you mentioned 73 words,
Yeah.
ones that display, words like obnoxious, abrasive, horrid, mediocre. So these are, pretty intense words. And um, that's so cool that, you were able to kind of, how do I say this? You were able to take something like you said that like is considered like the poor man's knitting and kind of make a name of it, and for yourself too with like this jacket. And you're right, a lot of the times people want, like they say that they want these like happy feelings, but at the end of the day, when it comes to art and music and media, what do people like gravitate towards? They gravitate towards the things that like maybe make you feel something a bit more intense than just happiness. People listen to breakup songs, and they like looking at art that maybe is a bit more intense. People like watching horror movies or whatever it is. So I totally agree with you on that front. I found the coat to be very moving because yeah, people don't post crochet work like this, and it was an immediate follow for me, and I have loved following you ever since.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was sort of also for me it was a way of like taking all of those things that I feel very intensely
Hmm.
about myself and then taking like the one a part of my life where I have no self-doubt. Like crochet for me, I never doubt myself when I work because I know I'm good at it. And that was a way too of like, if I, this wouldn't have had the same impact for me if I was trying to write about it or like draw or make a painting because I doubt my proficiency in those areas, whereas with crochet I felt like I was able to like convey what I wanted to say, not just by like crocheting the words but with the actual craftsmanship of it. So
Yeah.
if,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep. I can't imagine how much time it took you to make that.
I
Do
want
you
to
have like a ballpark number?
yes, between 250 and 300 hours.
Wow, that's
Approximately,
commitment.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a lot of commitment.
uh
So, one thing about the coat that I found really fascinating and that was really intriguing to me is that oftentimes when we have these more deep emotions or intense emotions, the way that they're displayed, or yeah, the way they're displayed is usually in like these more dark, intense, but you use a lot of color to talk about these like these more these big emotions. And I really appreciate how you meld being raw with humor, color, and playfulness when it
Thank
comes to your
you.
crochet.
Thank you.
And I just, because these colors, like colors and playfulness, are usually saved for like happier feelings. We're not usually playful or colorful with like intense feelings. So, can you just talk about how and why you use color to express these more serious emotions?
So that isn't like a conscious choice for me. And the
Mm,
reason that it isn't is because okay, like this. People can be more than one thing. So I
okay.
can be a successful business owner and I can be a very, very sad person. And
Mm,
I'm also a person who loves color. I love working with color. I love surrounding myself with color. Um, it's always like what do you call it, like a tug of war at home because I always want to add more color, and my fiance, he's like, could we please calm down? I love color, and it would feel very, very not like me
mm,
to not use the bold colors that I usually do,
mm,
even if the topic is hard, because I am more than one thing. Like this coat is also more than one thing. It is a representation of who I am as a person and like how I view myself, obviously. Uh, and
mhm,
I don't view myself as a person who works in blacks and grays and browns. Like so it
mm.
would be it wouldn't feel authentic if I
Yeah.
did use like the regular sad colors. Sorry, that is a horrible thing to say. But like for me
But I
those colors,
understand you.
yeah, it's
Hmm.
like the traditionally sad colors. um,
Hmm.
because I never used them in my other work, so it would
Mm.
feel like I was trying very hard to come across as mysterious and sad if I did.
Yes, that makes total sense. It's funny because I would also kind of think about myself in like this moody, mysterious way sometimes, but I also gravitate towards color.
Yeah.
I like to wear a lot of black and I do wear a lot of black and I always have, but I've always been intrigued by color. And so, as I create, I also create with a bunch of color and I'm like, am I supposed to be creating with like these darker colors just because that's also part of my personality? But I think that the way you said it is perfect. Like more than one thing can be true at once.
Yes.
And, the fact that you gravitate towards color, even with these intense emotions, I think is honestly even more interesting in my opinion. So,
Yeah, and I think like for me, I don't mean this in what's it called, like not it's not like synesthesia. It's not
hmm
like I see emotions in a certain color or something like that, but I
mm,
have every time I see a color, it can instantly remind me of something. It can remind me not like something that is the same as that color, but like a
right.
feeling or a memory or the way when you smell something and you're
Mm,
instantly like thrown back to fourth grade something that happened. I do that a lot, but with colors. So
mm,
I think that like helps when you're working with a lot of color as well.
right. Yeah, yeah, that's very true. I like that. I like that you approach your art in this way.
Thank you.
Um, I am also, as I'm fascinated about your approach with color to your art, I'm also fascinated by how you approach art, but also pattern design with
Yeah.
crochet. You crochet pieces that make statements and spark conversation. Your words jacket. You mentioned earlier the cutting of the dress, the pink dress, and then
Yeah.
like sewing it up later. Like you had 20 people help you decide where to cut and how to cut.
Yes.
And a lot of people, I read through those comments, a lot of people were upset, but it was
Yes.
interesting because they were also able to kind of say why they were upset and kind of speak on it. And like, I feel like it was kind of like a thought project. I don't know. I thought that was so fascinating. So alongside your these bigger projects that spark conversation, you also design very wearable patterns, and we often see designers do one or the other and not
Yeah.
necessarily both. But you do both, which is so cool. Can you talk about how you find the balance between creating art that fosters conversation and also creating wearable designs?
Okay, so it is divided in two because it has to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is with the, I usually call my pattern designing, it's my bread and butter. Like I have to
Mm,
do it. It's part of my job. I still enjoy it immensely. It is so
mm,
much fun and I need to wear clothes. So I think
right.
it's so cool. Like I had this thought when I was on a train back home from Stockholm last week and I'm like, if I just want something, I make it. Like it's
Mm,
and then sometimes people want to buy the patterns and sometimes
mm,
they don't like, but it's part of my job and it's a job I very very thoroughly enjoy.
mm,
And but it is sort of what pays the bills in a sense.
right.
The thing with the art projects, it's not only about the art and of course, it is about the art, but I also know and I've learned like when I say that people thrive on the chaos
hmm
of it all, it's it's the world's cheapest marketing tactic.
mm, mm,
Because I know when I posted about the coat,
hmm
I was talking to because my mom works very closely with a PR firm in her line of work.
hmm
And I asked her, like, hey, could you just check with them? What would this reach have cost me if I had to pay for it out of pocket,
hmm
to get this kind of reach and to get this amount of followers that I got from it and like these opportunities. Um, and they came back and said it wouldn't be less than 500,000 Swedish kronor, which is probably around, I would say, 50,000 US dollars. Like
Wow.
yes, that is what you have to pay for that kind of reach. So
Insane.
the first time I didn't think about it that way, but it sort of gave me permission in a sense to explore my
Mm,
art more because that also gives back to my business. And I wouldn't be able to do one without the other. I feel like when it comes to pattern design and and the art,
Mm-hmm.
because I become a better pattern maker or a better pattern designer by exploring the more art side of things.
Right.
But designing patterns also gives me like a breathing room in between these
Mm-hmm.
because they are intense. Like the
Mm-hmm.
more artful projects, they are very intense, and they are emotionally draining in a way that designing patterns aren't.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives me like I buy myself a couple of months of time to recuperate from these larger projects, and then I can sort of go back into them and do something else. So
Right.
to me, it's not like I didn't sit down and plan like, oh, I'm gonna spend this much time on art project and this much time on my actual job. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it just sort of happens. But
Right.
I'm gonna say if the coat didn't get as much attention as it did, I probably wouldn't feel this comfortable exploring the art,
Mm.
because I would be too afraid of quote unquote wasting my time. It's
Right.
not wasting time. It gives me something, but like I know that it also helps market the business. So, and that
Right.
is,
Wow.
that sounds boring, but it's something
No.
you need to, yeah, you need to have that in mind when you do this full time. Like I always have to think about the bottom line, unfortunately.
Right. No, yeah, that is part of, running a business.
Yes.
But, I actually think that your approach is so interesting because oftentimes artists will do like the more commercial thing so that way that they can explore their
Yeah.
art. You're doing the opposite.
Yeah.
That's not common.
No.
That's so interesting that you're like, oh, well, part of creating this art is so that way I can, get attention on my business and like sell
Yeah.
my patterns. But that's fascinating because it doesn't usually happen that way.
No, no, and it also allows the art to stay true to what I want it to be. Because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
if I was to live off of my art only, I would need to, and I wish I could find a better way to say this, but I would need to dumb it down. I would
Right.
need to make it
Mm-hmm.
more like commercially appealing to people, and I would
Mm-hmm.
need to lower the price point, which would lower the quality. Like this way, I know I don't need to sell my art to make ends
Mm-hmm.
meet. So that allows me
Right.
to take as much time as I want, use whatever materials I want, work around any topics that I feel I need to explore. So
Mm-hmm.
it's freer, or I feel freer in my art because I don't need to make a living off of it.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's how it should be. The
Yeah.
still maybe there's like this aspect of your passion that maybe is a little bit of a hobby or
Yes,
maybe it's just
yes,
kind of
of
melded into
course.
each other.
Well, it is.
Mm.
It is.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. So the two main projects that you've done, like these like think pieces, I guess, was the If I Just Wasn't word jacket
Yeah.
and the pink um, dress that you cut into. Can you talk a little bit about the pink dress and cutting into it? What was that like? What was it like having people like be upset that you were cutting into this dress and
Okay,
like
so
just fixing it later on? What was that like?
okay, so it wasn't hard for me at all.
Okay.
It was so people didn't like it. People didn't like it. Oh my
Mm.
God, they were so upset. People were in my DMs. They thought I was a monster. And the thing is, I have never
Hmm.
been very physically attached to whatever I create. Like I make things,
Hmm.
I never post those kinds of, oh, what I made in a month reels or TikToks. Like I just do because it's part of my job, and I don't want to like set a standard for people that is unattainable. But what comes with that, I produce like 4 or 5 full garments a month. Um,
Wow.
yeah, but that's because it's part of my job. It's my livelihood. I need to like I need to have things
Hmm.
on display in
Yeah, that's
store.
fair.
Uh, and when you do things at that frequency, you don't get super physically attached to it. It's like it's just a thing.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, it's just a thing. And sometimes that thing, or like every Everything I create has a purpose, but the purpose differs. Most of the time, the purpose is either to sell a pattern or to be on display in the store so that people, if it's knitting,
Mm-hmm.
people want to buy the pattern and the yarn. Like that is the purpose. And that purpose is no less, like, it's not less of a purpose than an art project. It still
Right.
has a purpose. And when you view your work like that, when you can detach yourself emotionally from it, that things doesn't, like, they don't have value, more or less value just because I created it. It's something
Mm-hmm.
that just exists. Like, a finished project can hold a lot of value, uh, whether it's like monetary value or sentimental value. But in the
Right.
end, like, that value is equal to me. Like, I think that's just like part of doing this as a job. You
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, a, a dress for an art project is not worth more than a sweater I'm hanging in the store so that people can buy the pattern. Um,
Right.
but people don't see it like that. And the thing with the internet, and especially the internet in 2024, when
Mm-hmm.
I released it, uh, it's people have a tendency to feel ownership of things that are not theirs. They
Yes,
look at
that's
this
true.
because the thing is, I had posted this dress before I announced I was going to destroy it. And the minute I posted it the first time, people started asking me for the pattern. And I'm like, no,
Mm-hmm.
there won't be a pattern. And that offended people because they see something on the internet
Mm-hmm.
and they think that they're instantly entitled to have it.
Yeah.
So, like, that was the I had already decided that I was going to destroy it, but that was sort of the mentality my followers were in when they saw um, that I was going to destroy it. Like, they were
Mm-hmm.
already disappointed in me for not giving them a pattern, and something sort of just broke in their heads, I think, when they saw that I wanted to destroy it, because, like, how it's so wasteful. Everyone was like, oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
so wasteful. You wasted so much yarn, you wasted so much time. And
Mm-hmm.
because it's like they only see what's right here and now, people can't see that there is an end goal. And on purpose, I didn't tell them what was going to happen next. When
Right.
I posted it the first time, I didn't tell them I was going to destroy it. When I told them I was going to destroy it, I didn't tell them I was going to mend it. Um, and like I said, I did that on purpose because I think it's important. It's a super important conversation to have. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people had the knee jerk reaction of, this is wasted. And the moment I mended it, it wasn't wasted anymore. And I'm like, how was it ever wasted then? How did I waste this
Right.
if by the moment I mended it, it was no longer wasted? And it was
Mm-hmm.
a piece on, or like, the purpose of that piece was to discuss uh, on a very, like, personal level, where
Mm-hmm.
does my value lie? Is my life wasted
Mm-hmm.
just because things have happened to me, or things I have done to myself, or things other people have done to me? Is my life wasted? Because and that sounds super pretentious, and I know that, and I'm not a pretentious person. I wanna, I wanna make that clear. Uh, but it's a hard topic to talk about for me, but it's a very easy topic to make a statement about. And in the end, this dress ended up being a statement. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people reached out afterwards and felt like seen, and they felt that they, like, it helped them see that they couldn't be defined by the bad things that had happened to them. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
which, like, I am no therapist. I don't claim to be, but it's cool to see that people actually think about themselves, and some people actually reached out and apologized as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're
Wow,
like,
that's amazing.
I'm sorry. I was very eager. I was very sad to see you destroy this beautiful dress. Uh, so, so yeah, big kudos to the people who actually took the time to reach out and say, I'm so sorry that I reacted the way that I did.
Right. No,
Yeah.
that's great that people were like, had a change of heart.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think it sounds pretentious at all, not even a little bit, to talk about it in this way. I think it's actually so relevant. Like we're all our own worst critics, and we
Yes.
have these thoughts about ourselves. And like you said, just because we've experienced these hard things doesn't mean that we're somehow less than. And I think, yeah, like creating art in this way, I think is beautiful. And also, I've been seeing a lot of statements lately about like if art doesn't make you uncomfortable, or if it doesn't, what is it? It's like, what is that statement? If it doesn't make the comfortable uncomfortable and comfort the
Yeah.
uncomforted, or something of
Oh,
that realm, like
I've
is
never
it
heard
doing its
that,
job?
but it's the sweetest thing I've ever heard, I think. I love that.
Yes, it's so good. And I think that what you're doing is doing that. It's like it's sparking this conversation with people that maybe are quite comfortable, and this is like opening their eyes to something new. And then those who maybe have been through a lot, they can kind of say, wow, finally I'm seeing somebody that kind of understands what I've been going through, or I can relate to what Mua has posted, because I have these same feelings about myself.
Mhm.
And it's helpful, I think, for people to not feel alone, and
That is
if a piece of art makes people feel less alone, then that's what it's supposed to do, right?
that's so sweet of you to say, and that is really the only thing as an artist you can ask for. And
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like it's important to, and that is the reason why I have chosen to be open about like the sources from which
Mm-hmm.
I pull uh, my
Right.
my very sad art. Um, because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, and especially when I talk in front of younger people, people under 25, because I remember being that age, like in my late teens, early 20s, thinking that things are never going to get better, and
Mm-hmm.
I have to get fully healed or fully like functional before I can do whatever I want with my life.
Right.
And I want to show them that there's a way to do it, even if you're not like a happy-go-lucky person. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm it's like cliche, but like if one person feels inspired or motivated by what I do, because they thought they couldn't, because they feel a certain way, or they are a certain way, or had certain things happen to them, I feel like my job is done, you know.
Right. Yes, I love that. Well, I can for sure say that you definitely inspire me. So
Thank
you at
you.
least for sure have your one.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Thank you. So you mentioned earlier that you wrote a book.
Yes.
I might butcher the title of this, but it's Virka for Livet,
Yes.
correct? Is that how you say it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Awesome. Which, for those that don't speak Swedish, I don't speak Swedish, that translates to Crochet for Life.
Yes.
And you mentioned it is comprised of 16 of your designs, and also the entire history of your life.
Yes.
Could you just talk a little bit about the book, how long it took, if you can give any sneak peeks into what aspects of your life were included, and yeah, things like that.
Yeah, I in the what is it called? I have no idea what it's called in Swedish, but there's like a section of the book before the book actually starts where the author usually talks about their feelings, or but in that part
Mm.
I say that I invite the reader to a walk of shame down memory lane. in
That's so
Swedish,
funny.
in Swedish though,
Okay.
but it is a very easily translated part. But we
Hmm.
start like the first pattern of the book is I was very inspired by my mom's wedding dress when she and my dad got married.
Hmm.
It, and so that was before I was even born. And then we knock on the door of different things, or things that happened, or like specific periods, time periods of my life, all the way
Hmm.
through the final pattern of the book, which is like sort of here we are now, and it's called the Mua experience, and it's a sweater made with the scrap yarn from all of the other designs in the book. So
That's
it's like
awesome.
it's a very on the nose metaphor of like we are the sum of everything that's ever happened to us. And
Mm.
so we have my first design that I ever published is in the book. So the matriarch sweater, which was the first. pattern that I ever released. It's inspired by my grandma, so it felt super important to have her there. And then we have a bag that's sort of from my I used to model, like I was a professional model, and I got to travel, so it draws inspiration from that. And we have the knife ring, which is a very literal translation of how the fashion was when I was in high school, like the emo era. Uh, so, so we have all of these, like maybe not parts of my life that I'm particularly proud of, but things that shaped me, I would say. So, and
Mm.
for every, like with every pattern, there is about half a page of the inspiration. Like I hold the reader's hand through it in a way that I don't usually do when I release a pattern online, because you don't have the attention of them for that long.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
force people to know me through this book.
You're like, you're
Um,
gonna know why I made this.
Yes, you need to understand me
Hmm.
to know. But
Right.
and it was a super fun process. It took me about 2 years from start to finish.
Wow. Hmm.
From the moment that like I signed the deal and until it was released,
Hmm.
it was I think 20 or 22 months. Um,
Wow.
so it was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of hard
Hmm.
work, and it's also, and I think that's I think it's beautiful that people feel very like a connection to the book, and an extension of connection to me,
Hmm.
because I am very open and very honest and very vulnerable in the book. Um, but it was the hardest part for me was not writing those things. The hardest part for me was to decide what not to write, like what is going to be too much for the reader.
Mm.
How can I tell them about these fundamental seismic and sometimes even traumatic experience without having
Mm.
them shy away. uh,
Yeah.
and and yeah, we like the way that I used color for the coat. I used humor a lot to sort of
Yeah.
not sugarcoat it, but to
Hmm.
in a way, I don't know what I can say. Like I don't wanna uh curse. but like, yes, this happened, this was messed up, but it's okay. Like
Right.
I didn't want people to feel bummed out after reading the book while still
Mm.
maintaining that sort
Mm.
of
Right.
honest and open uh,
Hmm.
conversation, really. So that was hard, and it was also very, like, I cried a lot during the process,
Mm. Hmm.
because I had to revisit so much of my childhood, and so many parts of my life that were actually like the worst parts of my life. They couldn't pay me money
Mm.
to go back in time. Uh, but
Right.
my mom, she's kind of a hoarder, not like in the
Okay.
clinical sense, but she has a hard
Okay.
time
Just in the.
letting, yeah, just in the, she has every single photo ever taken since 1987, uh, still in her possession,
Oh, that's
which I was
awesome.
really,
Hmm.
like, I was so grateful about that, because that way,
Hmm.
like, every single pattern comes with photos from the period of, like, the time period
Wow.
from which they draw inspiration. So there are baby photos of me in there, photos of my mom at
Wow.
my age, like, um, yeah. And I spent like 2 days just going through all of these photos, and I cried so much because, like, it was,
Mm.
she also saved like a lot of photos of my grandma and grandpa, and they're not alive
Mm.
anymore, and I miss them a lot. So it was
Yeah.
emotional in
Hmm.
that sense. Um, and if I ever was to write a book again, I
Hmm.
think I would do it better because I learned so much. It was a super super
Mm.
educating experience. And I don't regret a single moment of it. I wouldn't do anything differently if I had to go back. But if I was to write another book, I would do a lot of things differently, if that makes sense.
Right. Isn't that always how it is? Like you finish a
Yeah,
thing and you're like, I can do it better the next
yeah, but I
time.
don't think I could have made this book any better. Like, I can make another book better for that specific book, but I couldn't have made Virka
Right.
för livet any better than I did.
Mm. That's amazing. And
Yeah.
the fact that it stands for Crochet for Life and then you include
Yes.
so much of your life, like
Yes.
it, yeah, that's
And
amazing.
I,
Will it? Oh, mhm,
I feel because people always ask me about the title, but it's to me it's so
mhm.
obvious. It's like it's crochet for life.
Yeah.
The working title was crochet until I die, but
Mm.
that felt very sad. So, uh, so we did crochet for life instead.
More
Um,
like a glass half full
yes,
kind of title.
we tried our hardest. No, but it
Mm.
conveys the same emotion. And I
Mhm.
feel very proud of the book, obviously.
Mm. You should be, yeah.
Thank you.
Releasing a book is a huge
Yes.
accomplishment, and it's awesome that you've done that. So the book is currently in Swedish, but will it ever be in English?
Okay, so that's not up to me. I
Okay.
like the publisher that I work with, Polaris. They own
Hmm.
the rights to the Swedish version of the book. Uh,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
and they work with agents. Like they have an international agent. She sold the rights to Denmark, so it's also available in Danish.
Hmm.
But it all depends.
Mm,
Like
cool.
someone needs to want to publish it. So
Right.
so there needs to be like an English or like a UK or a US or a Canadian publisher wants to be willing to buy the rights for it to be able to be published in English. And
Gotcha.
that is
Okay.
not up to me. So but
Mm.
if people are interested in it, because I've sold quite a few to non-Swedish speakers, which
Hmm.
is, and people say like they use Google Lens and it works wonders.
Hmm.
So
Okay, well, there you go.
yeah,
For those who want to purchase the book, you can find it on Moa's website at hunzadesign.com.
yeah,
So, if you want to translate into English
Y-
and learn a little bit more about Moa,
yeah.
you should go check it out.
And you can also you get if you buy it international, you get like a glossary that I made up myself. So that yes,
Wow, cool.
and an extra like the matriarch since it's in the book,
Hmm.
and I also have it as a standalone pattern. You get that in English as well, so that you can
Wow.
sort of compare it and see how I structure the pattern. Like I really tried
Wow.
so hard to make because a lot of people wanted to buy the book, and I'm like, how are you gonna read it? I'm gonna try so hard
Right.
to make this work for you.
So there you go. If you want to get the book and then you want the English pattern, there's an option for
Yes,
you.
yes,
So going back to some of our conversations from earlier, we were
yeah.
talking about social media and just like how that whole experience is, especially with someone like yourself that is more open, especially about some of these more intense emotions and feelings. When it comes to social media and sharing your art and designs, do you ever find yourself experiencing imposter syndrome or questioning why you create? And if yes, how do you manage that?
I don't. I
Oh,
like
okay.
yeah, no, I don't at all. In like no part of my work when it comes to crochet do I feel
Mhm.
like I'm not doing it right because like I said before
Wow.
when we were talking about the coat, like
Hmm.
crochet is the only part in my life where I don't doubt myself.
Mm.
I am, and this is like I'm not saying this to boast or brag or anything, but I am an exceptional
Hmm.
crocheter. I'm so good at what I do that it's like, why would I feel imposter syndrome about that? And the thing is, I
Mm.
would probably feel different if I was younger. Because
Mm.
I talk about this a lot with other people, not necessarily crocheters or crafters, but like influencers. Because Sweden is small, I get like I am one of the larger creators in Sweden as on a whole, because we don't have that many.
Hmm.
So I get
Right.
invited to like influencer events, and it's always
Hmm.
the people that are like under 25 that have a hard time when it comes to managing their social media and not letting it like affect them. But I'm about to be
Mm.
33. I've been on the internet since
Mm.
2002. Like I remember one of the most popular websites in Sweden when I was in my early teens was a place where you rated other people's appearances. Like that is the internet I grew up
Mm-hmm.
with. It was a mean place. It was a mean place. And
Yeah.
it also
Mm-hmm.
was okay. I can sometimes miss the times where internet was a place you went to. Like you had a home computer in a room, and when you left that, you didn't have the internet with you. Um,
Right.
but the thing is, I also keep that same mentality, even though I always carry the internet with me. Like, I don't care if I don't
Mm-hmm.
look at my phone. If someone's mean to me, I'm like, okay, live your life. Like, I get so many rude
Right.
comments, and
Mm.
it doesn't affect me because my worth is not determined by the amount of likes or comments that I get or what kind of comments I get. I'm like, okay, go live your life. I don't when people like
Totally.
you're ugly, I'm like, so are you. We could be twins actually. Like it's it's we're BFFs now because we're so ugly. Um so
Oh my gosh.
no, but the thing is like it doesn't affect me, and it would if I did
Mm.
this 10 years ago. If I had this platform that I have now, if I did have that 10 years ago, I would probably let it get to me in a way. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it also like I don't I don't set out to be controversial, but I am very
Mm-hmm.
opinionated on stuff, and I don't shy
Mm-hmm.
away from sharing that opinion. And sometimes that upsets people. And I'm not saying that I'm confrontational, but I'm never afraid of an argument if someone else starts it. And like I've grown a quite like a thick skin, not just from being exposed to the internet for over
Right.
20 years at this point. Um, and that is it's also a lot easier for me, I think, to say no when people are like, oh, we want the pattern for this. If I don't feel like writing the pattern or feel like I couldn't grade the pattern for the sizes that I'm adamant about releasing, like I'm gonna say no. But for
Mm-hmm.
someone who has only lived their life or like their adult life on the internet, being available to people, um, they're gonna feel a different kind of pressure, I think. This is not at all what you asked me about. I just went, went on a
I think it's
tangent
all
here.
encompassing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but I
No, I
don't
think
feel
it's
like,
all encompassing.
yeah. But the thing is, like, I don't feel imposter syndrome about my crochet because
Mm-hmm.
I'm really good at crochet. I feel very confident in my work in a way that I rarely feel about anything else in my life, and I'm very happy. I feel very grateful that it has
Mm-hmm.
stayed that way since making this my full-time job. So
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people do feel imposter syndrome,
yes,
and I myself feel it, and I think that, for me specifically, I would say that that comes from maybe this slight lack of trust in my abilities or achievements or whatever it may be. Um, and I think that it's nice to hear that someone is also experiencing the same thing that you are. But I think in this case, it's actually really inspiring to hear that you don't experience imposter syndrome, because it shows that like your work in crochet comes from like this place of deep confidence. And
yes.
I think that that's amazing.
And that's
And
not
it's
to
just, it's
say,
really
oh,
cool.
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, and that's not to
No, go
say that I
ahead.
don't,
Mm-hmm.
I think imposter syndrome is the wrong word for me, but I do feel
Mm-hmm.
unsure and uh, I'm not confident at all about other things when it comes to running my business. And I feel scared and small, and I do feel like I move through my life with a lot of fear. The thing is,
Mm-hmm.
I don't let that fear like make decisions for me. And that is
Right.
something that comes with experience and with age, but I just want, um, I'm losing the English like word. Crochet for me is more like it's a sanctum sanctorum. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't enter with the impurity that is the real world in a sense. Sorry, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm rambling, but all the
No.
doubts I have to leave that outside of my crochet, because the moment I start doubting myself, I know my work is not going to be as good, which is why
Right.
I never design something with the intention of it selling hundreds and hundreds of patterns for it. I design it because I want to
Mm,
wear it. And if people want to buy it, that's great. But my life is
right.
no different before or after I release that pattern if I
Mm,
sell two or 200. Like it doesn't
mm.
matter. And
It,
I don't know how old you are, but I think a lot of this comes with age and experience.
hmm Yeah, that's fair. I'm 29. I'll be 30 in November.
Oh yeah, well you
So,
should. Well, I usually talk about things or people being young or being young
hmm
in their craft or being young in business because I was a lot less
hmm
confident the first year of running my business. I was
right.
scared to look at my emails because I was so sure that someone was gonna, I don't know, throw me in jail or something. But now, because for the first like year or 2 years, I was doing a lot of things with my business for the first time, and then you can't
Mm,
have that confidence. But crochet,
right.
it's like nothing is new to me in crochet anymore. I
hmm
can still become a better designer, and I do frequently like feel myself becoming more skilled in the design department. And it's
Right.
not like you should ever stop learning, but uh, I'm comfortable in my skills, which
hmm
I think helps. So
I think you're totally like on the money with that. Like, imposter syndrome can be this lack of confidence, but also could just be lack of confidence due to not a ton of experience.
yeah,
And yeah, if you're starting out on something new, you're like, well, how am I supposed to be confident about this thing that I
yeah,
haven't been doing for a long enough time?
yeah. And
So I think that's totally valid.
yeah, and I think it's important too. I usually say this a lot that trial and error is mostly error until it isn't.
hmm
Like
hmm
you have to suck at something in order to be good at something. You have to make
Right.
mistakes because if you don't make mistakes, you never learn. And people think because and that is on me as well because
hmm
I choose what I post on social media. But right now I'm doing like this thing where I'm taking photos every time I unravel parts of my projects because people
hmm
think I have an idea in my head, then I crochet it, and then it's done. I unravel each thing I do at least 3 times, more or less. And I'm
Right.
not exaggerating. But I
hmm
feel like okay, this isn't a part that I've shown before. So now I'm taking photos of everything I unravel every time I unravel it to show
Right.
that this is like, yeah, it's still trial and error for me. And it's a difference between
hmm
being um, a technically skilled crocheter and a creatively
hmm
skilled crocheter. And I am a very good creative crocheter. Uh,
hmm
I want to say that I'm smack dab in the middle of having technical skills, and it's two
hmm
different skill sets, and one isn't better than the other. But once again, I have lost where we were supposed to go with this question. I am
It's
so
okay.
sorry.
More just like moving through
Yeah.
imposter
Yes.
syndrome and just
Yes.
like.
Yeah.
But
If it brings someone any comfort, in the last week,
mhm.
I have unraveled a skirt 4 times.
Wow.
Yes, and the
Yeah.
same
Yep.
section because I just couldn't figure it out because I have decided to do it in a way that isn't physically possible. So I have to unravel it.
Right.
And then I have to make the
That
same
is
mistake twice just in case I didn't learn the first time. Like it's okay. It's part of the process.
totally agree. That was
Yeah.
me with learning filet crochet. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm just gonna figure this out and see. And like there was so much error because I was like, there's a process to doing this, a way that
Yes.
already works. I don't need to reinvent the wheel.
No.
So I get you. So when it comes to creating, what motivates you to continue creating art and designing patterns, and what motivates you to continue running a store?
Oh, that is a hard question to answer because I don't
Fair.
think it's any particular thing. Uh,
Hmm.
I usually say like, and this is I say to my customers and I say to my followers that crochet is supposed to be fun,
hmm
and it's not life or death, but for me, it is life or death.
hmm
Like it's like it's allowed to be fun and enjoyable, but for me, it also is life and death. I can't see myself doing anything else. And that is not like a sense of not in the sense of I feel a defeat, like this is the only thing that I'm good at, not at all. It's just like I have a hard time seeing myself going back uh to working a regular job because my life is incredibly hectic. I do so many things. I work like 70 hours a week. Not, yeah, but I do it because I love it. And I would never do that if I was working for someone. I work for myself. I choose to work this much because I absolutely love what I do. And when it comes to creativity, okay, so some people think of creativity as a cup from which you pour, and then that cup runs empty, and then you go and pour yourself another. Um, but it's not like that for me. I feel more like my creativity is more like a natural spring, like it just keeps coming. I wish I had 8 hands and double the amount of hours in a day, just so I had the time to actually do all the things that I want to do creatively. So for me, it's more of like choosing what not to do because I don't have 8 arms and I don't have 48 hours in a day.
Right.
And I like, I'm not saying it's not fun all the time. Sometimes you just need to do it. Like I felt very defeated by this skirt that I have unraveled 4 times. But I don't know, like Benny Andersson from ABBA, like the group ABBA. He is one of the like not only for ABBA, but he is a well-known composer in Sweden. And he says he works full time for a year to get maybe 3 hours worth of music, and he still does it. And I feel like I have adopted that a lot. And I think Stephen King said something to the effect of no matter if the inspiration hits you, you still have to write a page a day. So like I can push myself through it. Not saying that I'm forcing ideas or I'm forcing creativity, but sometimes I have to force it because that might knock something loose, you know? So I have a ton of ideas and I very rarely feel like I have no ideas. I do enter funks where I feel like every idea I have is a shit idea, and who gave me permission to even hold a crochet hook, especially when I have this super clear idea in my head and it's like I can't draw. I have no idea how to paint or to draw. But imagine like the best drawing you've ever seen in your life and the only thing you can do is a stick figure. Sometimes crochet feels like that, but I still do it because I know I'm going to love the end result. And it's a really cool feeling when I finally figure out how I can make it work. And people, when I started my business or when I went full time, people were like, I'm not going to say concerned, but they were like, oh, but what if it loses the fun? Like, what if you don't want to crochet anymore? And that is part of the reason why I opened a store, because I knew that even if I never wanted to pick up a hook again, I would always love working in a store. But for me, it's actually been the opposite. It's liberated a part of me to be fully more creative. So it's actually more fun now than it was 6 years ago to create and to crochet. Yeah. So, and it's also, if I was to give like a word of advice for people stuck with inspiration and motivation, it's like try to look for it in a place where you don't usually find it. If you constantly look at Pinterest for inspirations and you feel like you're in an inspirational drought, so to speak, do something else. Go to the library, go out into the forest, watch a music video, like try, and if you get a lot of inspiration from nature, go for a city walk, try to get inspired by architecture, like force yourself out of your creative inspiration box that you have boxed yourself into. And don't try to copy what anyone else is doing. Instead, try to look at the same inspiration that they drew their inspiration from and interpret it your own way. Because if you're constantly trying to keep up with trends or doing what's viral at the moment, it's always going to feel like a chore. uh
Right.
Crochet never feels like a chore to me, or it does sometimes. I'm crocheting a rug at home now, and I question every single life choice that led me to make it. It's gonna be beautiful, but that is a chore. but
Right.
but like when it comes to exploring your creativity, um the moment it starts feeling like this is boring, you should do something else for a while.
Hmm. I think that's a beautiful way to sum it up. And it really sounds like, the title of your book, Crochet for Life, is
Yeah.
is really your life. Like that's how you're
Yes,
living your life.
it is. I usually say that I live, eat, and breathe crochet.
That's so funny. Have you
But I
seen
do.
those reels where people are like, "Oh, I spent all my money on yarn," and so then that's what they're eating for
Yeah,
breakfast,
yeah.
lunch, and dinner the day. Yeah.
No, but it's like that. It's like, oh, people ask me like, what would you do if you didn't crochet? I'm like, that's a weird question. What would I do if a bomb fell on me tomorrow? Like, I can't even
Hmm.
imagine it. It's a very
Hmm.
and not in the sad way. I'm
Hmm.
crochet brings me so much joy, and happiness, and like introspection, and community. So yeah, I feel very very comfortable having crochet as sort of like my trusted confidant.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for just sharing all
Thank
of
you.
this, all of your
Thank
experiences,
you.
and just how you think and view crochet. It's really amazing. Yeah, how important it is to you. It's really, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting me do that.
Yes, of course. So thank you again for being here. I really appreciate it. And thank you for those who are listening or watching, for listening and watching to this Stitched by podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, another one drops next month on May 15th. And find me on Instagram, Threads, and YouTube at Stitched by Podcast. I want to thank again my guest, Moa, at Honse Design, for joining me on today's episode. Find Moa on Instagram at Honse Design and on her website for her patterns, book, and yarn at hunsedesign.com. I'm your host, Ari at Stitched by Ari, signing off for now.